Hi, my name is Rich Baker. I'm the Program Director for Victory Program's Mobile Prevention Team and the Victory Connector Program. These two programs provide harm reduction education and resources to folks across the city who are at risk for overdose and infectious diseases.
My name is Elle Simone Scott. I'm Executive Editor, Food Stylist, and TV Talent at America's Test Kitchen. And I'm here because I believe in victory programs. They save lives every day in so many ways. Today, Rich is going to teach me about how to recognize an overdose and how to use Narcan to save a life.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. So some things that you want to be thinking about when you're walking up on someone and you're encountering someone that you think might be overdosing, some things that you want to be conscious of first are a person's responsiveness. The first thing that you're going to seek out, you come across someone who is lying down, maybe slumped over, and you don't know if they're okay, start verbally. You're not going to immediately jump to start tapping someone on the shoulder. You're going to want to say, hey, are you doing okay?
Okay.
If the person's not responsive to that, a simple tap on the shoulder is your next best move.
Okay.
Now, if a person doesn't respond to that tap on the shoulder, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're overdosing. But we might want to think that something's off here, that this person is not responding back to me. The next thing that you can say is you're going to want to start to look around for some possible signs that the person is not responsive. So the first thing that you're going to want to look for is, hey, are there any signs that there might have been any substance use that is occurring around this person? And also for yourself, making sure that you're not at risk if there's potentially like a needle that might be around.
Okay.
To make sure that you don't accidentally stick yourself in the process while you're trying to support and help this person.
Okay.
The next thing that you're going to want to start to assess with this person, if they're not responsive to verbal, they're not responsive to that tap on the shoulder, is mentioning the word Narcan. Sometimes if someone just might be in a deep nod or they might be sleeping, for example, the word Narcan sometimes can get someone to rouse back up and say like, okay, no, I'm good. I don't need Narcan today.
Or I do need it. Help.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Or you're in the situation where that response, there's no verbal response back to you. You don't see any response to physical stimulation. Mm-hmm. Now we're starting to think there could be something else that's going on with this person.
All right.
So some signs that you want to look for first is you want to know whether or not the person is breathing, whether or not their heart rate is working. So the first couple signs of an overdose, of what's actually occurring in someone's body, is your loss of breathing, loss of heart function, and loss of responsiveness.
Okay.
So they're not responding verbally, they're not responding physically. We already know at this point that their responsiveness is no longer there.
Okay.
The next thing we're going to want to do, we're going to want to feel whether or not they have any pain stimulation response. So a way that you can do that without getting too close, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you want to show me your hand, what you can do is you can grab the person's hand and you're just going to press, not too hard, but you're going to press enough to create discomfort in that thumb down into that hand. Because what you're doing there is if someone is overdosing and there's opioids present inside of their brain, they're not going to have that pain response. They're not going to be able to kick that hand back and say, ow, that hurt.
Yes.
Because they're not going to feel that sensation.
Got it.
So if they're not feeling that, another option that you can do is grab right here on the shoulder, just grab a piece of skin and squeeze there. Again, trying to keep some physical distance between you and the person.
Yes.
They're not
physical response will
exactly. Because imagine someone walks up to you and starts pinching your shoulder on a couch on the street, and you're fine. You're gonna react.
That's true.
But if the person is overdosing, they're not going to have the ability to react in that situation.
Okay.
So now we've already acknowledged that they don't have any responsiveness to any type of physical or verbal stimulation. We want to know whether or not this person is breathing. That can be really hard to do without getting really close to someone. One method that I like to do is grabbing something like a phone with a screen, because everyone has a phone on them.
Right.
Putting it up in front of the mouth and seeing whether or not that phone fogs up.
Got it.
That'll tell you, even if they're taking really shallow breaths, you'll be able to know whether or not this person's breathing at all.
But if it's someone I'm close to, I can lean in a little closer, maybe listen for breathing.
Exactly. Listen for breathing, try to feel for a heart rate.
Okay.
Feeling for a pulse is really hard.
Yes.
It can be hard for someone even with a trained hand and an ability to do that. So it's not always the easiest thing to rely on, but if you do know how to look for a pulse, that's going to be the next thing that you're looking for.
Okay. Is this the point where I would call 911 if there was no response? If there's breathing, would I still call 911?
So if there's breathing, but there's no other responsiveness and you're not sure how to respond, calling 911 is always going to be your safest bet if there's no one else around that can give you any information about what's going on with this person.
Even more so if I am not trained in CPR.
Exactly.
Got it.
But if you have no response to stimulation, no evidence of breathing, or really, really labored breathing that you can't necessarily tell whether or not it's going to be sustained, sometimes you'll hear someone making like these really deep gargling sounds coming from their throat. That's kind of their body's last ditch effort to get oxygen down into those lungs, and it's not doing very well at being able to do that.
I see.
If you have all of those situations present, it's pretty likely that you have an overdose situation that you're working with.
That's good to know.
And that's when we're going to want to start immediately moving into overdose response mode.
Okay.
So, like you mentioned, first thing that you're going to do when responding to an overdose, call 911. And what I recommend doing if you're alone, call 911 and put it on speakerphone. That way you can start the process while you're responding, because in an overdose response, time is of the essence.
Absolutely. And also for your own safety, right? If you're somewhere where you wouldn't normally be, you'd have someone on the phone with you while you deal with this response.
Exactly.
Got it.
So the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure the person is in a safe position, and you're going to want to open up that airway.
So head back?
Exactly. So you're going to want to tilt that head back, and while the head is tilted back, you're going to take your Narcan, and you're going to stick first dose of Narcan up one of the nostrils, and you're going to press the plunger all the way down.
Okay.
So it's not a half, it's not a little bit, it's not a little bit in each side, it's one dose fully down, and it's going to spray the whole inside of the nose.
Got it.
Important things to know about Narcan. It's totally safe. If this person is not overdosing from opioids, it's not going to do anything, but it's also not going to harm them.
Well, that's good to know also.
It's a totally
Just
safe
in
medication.
Case. Okay.
Exactly.
Do you have to keep the airway open?
Yes.
Okay.
So while it takes the Narcan about 2 minutes to work inside of the brain, what we're going to want to immediately move to is CPR if you're trained in it.
Got it.
If you're not trained in CPR, the next best thing that you can do is provide rescue breaths for this person.
Okay.
We don't know how long this person has potentially been without oxygen, and what's going to keep them alive while the Narcan starts to work inside of their brain is the providing rescue breaths.
Okay.
So most of the Narcan the Victory Programs gives out has these CPR face shields inside of them.
Wonderful.
I strongly recommend people carry these keychain face shields in their pocket, in their bag in general, for this exact reason. But if you don't happen to have one of these, using anything as a face barrier protection, a coat, a rag, a shirt, anything that can at least block your mouth from theirs can give you a little bit more protection from any types of infectious diseases like a flu or anything like a cold or something like that.
Okay, got it. So lipstick, dental floss, face barrier in my work bag.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, cool.
So you're going to provide these rescue breaths for 2 minutes.
Okay.
These 2 minutes can feel like a lifetime.
Oh.
One thing that can help to make sure that you're timing it correctly is remember you have 911 on the phone with you while you're responding, and that phone has a clock that's counting the amount of time that you have been responding to this overdose, which can give you a good insight to has it really been 2 minutes, or has this just felt like the longest 2 minutes of my life?
Or both.
Exactly. It's probably going to feel like both.
Yes. Okay. Great.
After those first 2 minutes are up, we're going to assess. We're going to see, do I see any signs of responsiveness? Do I see breathing starting to pick back up? Do I feel a pulse rate again?
Okay.
If none of those are present after those first 2 minutes, we're going to go for our second dose of Narcan.
Am I doing that by checking all the same signs that I did the first time? Maybe pinching the finger, pinching the shoulder.
Exactly.
Using my phone to check for breath. All of these things are also applicable in the second check.
Exactly.
Great.
So if any of those things are starting to come back, hold off on the second dose of Narcan. If the person starts moving, if you start to see and hear more breathing, give them Narcan a moment to really kick in, because if those other signs are present, that means the person is coming back.
Wonderful.
And they don't need that next dose of Narcan.
Okay.
If you don't have any of that responsiveness, we're going to go to the other nostril that we didn't use before.
Okay.
And we're going to, again, press the plunger all the way down and put all of the doses of Narcan into that person's nose.
Okay.
And we're going to jump right back into rescue breaths again.
Got it.
And we're going to keep continuing this process until the person responds or until EMS arrives.
Okay.
Typical Narcan kit is going to include 2 doses of Narcan in it. In probably 97% of overdoses, 2 doses of Narcan is going to be sufficient.
Okay.
But it's really important to still have 911 coming along the way, because you don't know how long that person has been without oxygen. And Narcan is also a short-acting medication. So it's important that that person get follow-up medical care.
Okay, great. So it's something to save a life until the person can get into appropriate
Exactly.
hands. Okay, that's great. Wow, it's really interesting to find out that I could use any material as a barrier for giving life-saving breaths.
Mhm.
That's really good to know. That means saving lives is much easier than we think it is.
Absolutely. Some things to know about Narcan and kind of the drug supply now, as we're seeing an increase more of xylazine in our fentanyl supply in Massachusetts,
Okay.
and it's commonly referred to as trank dope. And really, what that is there's a sedative that's being that put into the drug supply. So when folks are thinking that they're buying fentanyl, they're getting, in many cases, a combination of both fentanyl and that tranquilizer. That can make response to an overdose a little bit more challenging because on top of the fentanyl that's causing the overdose, there's now a tranquilizer in their system that is also depressing those same bodily functions.
Okay.
The Narcan does not work on the tranquilizer, however, it does work on the opioids.
Okay.
So it may make it harder for the person to come back as quickly, and you may see very labored breathing in the response back. And xylazine tends to last in the system a lot longer. So the most important thing that you can do in response to that is maintain the same protocol that we just went through, but make sure you're calling 911 because you might not have the resources to be able to support the person for the amount of xylazine that might now be in their system, and they need a higher level of care.
Okay, so just to be clear, the Narcan can work for the fentanyl, right? And so that will save the life. But whatever the xylazine does has to be handled by medical professionals.
Exactly.
Got it.
It still works. It's not resistant to the Narcan. It's just that Narcan is designed to function for opioids.
Got it. Rich, thank you so much for teaching me so much valuable information today. I'm very happy that Narcan is available, and I feel so much more confident about saving lives in my community. Can you tell me where we can find Narcan?
Of course. So Narcan is an over-the-counter medication now. It's totally safe. The fact that it is over-the-counter communicates to you the safety profile of the drug. You can go down to your neighborhood pharmacy and access it there. You can also reach out to Victory programs. If you or someone you know is at risk for opioid overdose, that's something we can absolutely help you out with. We want to make sure it's in the pockets, purses, and cars of everyone so that we can potentially save more lives and prevent more overdose deaths.
And if you want more information, you can check out Victory programs online at www.vpi.org. Let's save some lives, Rich.